Hello and welcome to yet another edition of News18 Yuva Bharat in association with IIMUN. I've got Rishabh Shah, President of IIMUN, with us as always. And so today we have entrepreneurs, people who have not only battled this challenge of COVID-19, but are also stepping up to do something about it. And of course, we'll also quiz them. Are they going to help their employees get vaccinated? Are they going to encourage them to not just give it up, but as an organization, also help people get vaccinated and cover their costs? A lot of organizations have stepped up and done. So, what is it that they have done? How is it that they have approached the pandemic? How is it that they have reworked and realigned their businesses and also helped society at large? We'll try and understand all that. Rishabh, as always, thank you for curating such a fantastic panel. Very young, very enterprising, and I think doing a lot of work in the new business space. So perhaps if I can broadly say that, a lot of achievers in Ashish Nair, Devita, and also Sucheta. So why don't you tell our viewers a little more about who they are, what they're doing, and why they're here today?
So firstly, as always, we need to start by thanking you and thanking the network, because I think a show that's curated for young people, which is specifically on national television, I think is the first of the kind where you was focusing on young issues. I'm so glad that we have young entrepreneurs who are making a difference. So of course, they need little introduction, but David is of course Chairman CEO of the View Group, uh, and then we have Sucheta Mahapatra, who's the MD for Branch Personal Finance, and also Ashwath Venkatesan. Who's done with COVID, unfortunately. But we have Ashish Nair, co-head India Oak North. So nice to have all of you. And let me come to Devita first. Devita, you tested positive, but like we were discussing, you were positive, and not positive negative. Your mindset was always positive. You're seeing the second wave being a little more difficult than the first one. What are you and your company doing in order to combat this?
I think the biggest thing important right now is, for business leaders, we tend to think that leadership is limited to just competing in the business sphere. Whereas the influence that we have and the people that we're responsible for is very large. And everything cannot be done by the government. I think a lot of responsibility should be taken by corporates. So we decided, for example, last year there was a communication that went to my team as letter from chairman that said we're not going to fire people. In fact, we're going to pay people salaries in advance so that they can manage expenses. And this was very well received by the team because they really felt that the company cares for them. This time we realized there are two areas that they're worried about. One, of course, is the cost of vaccination, because most of our employees are below 45 and they have to pay the market rates for vaccination. It's not subsidized. So we decided that we're going to give the vaccination cost of not only the team, but the entire family also. Another thing is, of course, for people who then turn up in the hospital, the thing is that the costs of medication, hospital costs, everything are very high. It can literally erode a whole year's salary for them. And insurance is actually not going to cover the whole thing. So we decided as a company that we are going to, cover every medical and hospitalization cost also for our teams. So when I communicated this to my team, there was so much response from them, and they're so appreciative, and the pride that they felt in the company. I realized that this message can be taken to business leaders across the country. So I started an initiative called My Boss Cares, where I reached out on social media and different forums and said, why don't you take money from your marketing budget or HR budget or CSR budget, whatever it may be, and put it towards the medical care of your own team, and really show that you care for your people, through in a tough time like this. Because the biggest fear today people have, a lot of them, is not only is Corona going to kill me, is also that is it going to bankrupt me. And if companies can take care of that, at least 50% of the stress is gone for our workforce.
Let me take this to other people also and what they are doing in their own companies, because I think the most important thing, and this I say on behalf of a lot of young working professionals who basically are working in companies such as Oak Tree, and they're worried that the third wave, are you going to remove us from the company? Is that a fear? Is that a fear amongst your employees, and how are you dealing with this?
Right. So if you look at Oak North as an organization, and we have always put people in the front. And this was the time when we actually, everybody stepped up and tried to take care of people first. So we launched a number of initiatives, ON Cares being one of them, There are a number of initiatives like arranging oxygen, arranging hospital beds, uh, even telling your employees that, okay, you don't have to worry about yourself and your family. If you need time off, take time off. You don't have to worry about your job security, and you don't have to worry about any leaves, any balance getting deducted. You don't have to worry about those things. So, as was pointed out by Devita as well, I think that takes a lot of stress off the team members, and they tend to believe that, okay, uh, the company cares for me, and then I can take care of myself. I can take care of my family. Another related important aspect is about mental health, mental well-being. When you are working from home, locked, you should not be going out, and because of COVID, it brings the stress levels that you see are generally at a higher level. So we are running various initiatives. We've appointed counselors who are taking sessions. These are professionals for team members who need it. And one of the recent things that we've started now, given that most of our teams are now back at work, is doing morning yoga from 8 to 8:30. That really helps reduce the stress levels, and that's a great start to the day for our teams.
I think you're doing phenomenal. But I don't want to be the devil's advocate, but I want to definitely ask this because I see a lot of young people coming forward and doing their bit in civil society. And this is young organizations who are stepping forward like Himkunt, so on and so forth, Mission Oxygen and all of these. And we did a show last week about them. But shouldn't young corporate India do a little more? And let me take this to Sucheta and say, because you're the ones with the finances, with the funds, I know you're doing your bit for employees, but the largest civic responsibility that is there towards society at large. Because it's so easy to say that, government is responsible for this. And this is what a lot of young people used to do. And now those same young people are on ground making a difference. But do you see this as a general trend that young corporate India is making, is doing their bit for civil society when it comes to this? And what are you doing about it, Sucheta?
That's a great question, Rishabh, and I love that framing. Yes, short answer, yes. Young corporate India should step up. This ain't a problem that we can, leave with the government and sort of stand back, right? This is not one of those. I'm very happy to report at Branch that, first step number one, we've acknowledged this sort of the gravity of the issue, both for our employees and in the community, right? We do know that these are incredibly difficult times. We do know that just even when we look at our own employees or even our customers, we do know that folks are either dealing with COVID themselves, they've tested positive, they may have, some of them. Some of us are caregivers to immediate family who might have tested positive, and almost all of us are dealing with supporting our networks, right? On top of all of this, many of us are dealing with loss and grief, right? So step one is we've acknowledged that these are incredibly difficult times. We've actually taken this message and sensitized our entire global company about this, because we're a global org with operations in 4 or 5 countries. We've actually taken this message to our entire company and told them about the gravity of the situation in India. Interestingly, we managed to raise a ton of funds from across the globe that then we chose to match as a company. Whatever the employees contributed, we matched it 1-for-1 and then gave it to charities of our choice. So you named some of the more popular NGOs that are working very hard in this space. We did that. We raised money, we gave it back, where we could. And we matched as a company everything employees could raise. So we firmly believe that this is not an issue that we want to sort of stand back and watch. We want to acknowledge it. We want to help our employees. Some great ideas here already in this group, lots of which we're already doing. We do want to give back to the community. And I do want to point out that the business we are in, we provide credit, meet a very core critical need for financial services need for sort of the underserved. So in these difficult times, frankly, that's coming in handy for so many of our customers that I'm elated that we are able to help in that front, right? Our business is directly making a difference to people's life, offering them credit when they really, really need it in a tough economic environment.
No, absolutely fantastic. So you are able to not only grow your business, but also help people. So it's working both ways. So you're working harder to grow your business, but because you're in the personal finance space, you're offering credit and giving opportunity to people and helping them out. See, another aspect which stands out is even if you help your 200 employees or 300 employees or 800 employees, that's 800 families. So you are, even if you don't contribute largely to, society at large, 800 families is a lot of people that you're going to actually help, 300 families, 400 families, whoever, you're within your sphere of employment. And then, of course, you guys are contributing. I am part of Network 18. One of the first things which happened, it was new last time around for everybody, and I'm just speaking from personal experience. So what did the network do? The network immediately said, that the top 10% of our company who are earning, beyond a certain salary bracket will immediately take a cut up to 30% in their, so anywhere between 15 to 30% was the cut that was taken. But 75% of the employees did not face any salary cuts. So that's what happened. And what was done was a recalibration. So everybody figured out work from home techniques. What was it done? But tell me one single learning, if I were to ask you this, going forward for your businesses, one single learning that you think that you are now going to implement is creating a separate pandemic fund or a corpus for that. Is that going to be one of the things that you're going to do going forward? Let me start with Devika. How are you going to realign your business or think differently post this pandemic?
My first job is to make sure I've got a business and I pay your salary. So even if I'm being strict with you, I'm not firing you. There's no furlough. There's no cost cuts. We didn't ask anyone to take a pay cut across the company. Not one, and this is a privately owned business. The biggest thing is I will be strict with you, but I will make sure that, you are employed. The first thing I think that I've learned as a takeaway is we have to make this hybrid system, which is when people say work from home, but it's not a very loose term of like, oh, I'm just going to sit back. Like bosses should definitely make a very strict work from home agenda. What are the working hours? What we expect you to do? I don't call my team up during the lockdown on the weekend or after hours, which is important for them. How do you log on? Have you given them the tools to connect? And make sure that fine, if you have to work from home, no problem, but work from home in a way that you're employed and employable.
So if you look at the pandemic, and despite all the gory realities, it did bring out the very best in all of us, right? We saw a higher degree of human compassion across in corporate, people helping each other out and doing a lot of stuff for the community. If you look at Oak North, we already have a policy where we contribute 1% of our global profits towards the CSR initiative. And if you look at what we have done during this pandemic, when we saw that there is shortage of oxygen being faced by different states, particularly Delhi, we worked with the government, arranged and donated oxygen cylinders to the Delhi government. We also worked with the government of Uttarakhand and arranged oxygen cylinders for them. And we worked with a number of NGOs to arrange the right support where these NGOs were working on various COVID relief efforts. So I think for us, it's about continuing on that path and that journey, and being focused on the aspect of giving back to the society on a continuous basis.
I think we learned a few things. We learned that we must continue to keep our customer front and center. Something we were doing, but we want to do more of that, right? We are meeting a very critical need, and we didn't use a broad brush approach to say, let's shut down or let's do this or that. We actually take pride in being extremely data-driven, and we did more of that. We put the customer front and center. We were data-driven in that we meet every second day on the back of very, surgical, precise, almost guerrilla-like approach to what we want to do on a daily, every alternate day basis. So we are data-driven. Customer remains front and center. We want to serve this customer no matter what, to the best of our abilities, even during a difficult time. I think employees, again, remain front and center of everything that we do, right? So we actually work in a distributed fashion across the world. don't even have an office in Bangalore. We don't have physical space in Bangalore. We have teams out of Bangalore, but we don't have a physical space at all, right? So we figured out through work from home that we can actually operate like this. We can operate distributed. We can operate remote. We work beautifully. We trust all of us to do their bit, do it seamlessly. We work in an async fashion. We have the tools to do it. And all of us work async. It's magical the way it comes together. I take great pride in this working model of ours, right? We have a concept called unlimited leaves. Take time off as many times as long as you want to, anytime, right? And there's no sort of leave keeping. Nobody's like checking your work hours, but work does happen. And like I said, it's priceless. The sort of ownership and accountability our teams bring to the table. We work across the US, Africa, India, almost around the clock, distributed, async, unlimited leaves. We actually, in these COVID times, by putting the employee front and center, introduced a concept of a Dolphin Day. We call ourselves Dolphins inside of branch. We said, take an extra day off. As a company worldwide, we'll just take an extra day off because we want to shut down our screens, right? Because the one offshoot of COVID and work from home is that we are stuck to a screen, right? So we shut down. So this Friday, all of us will just like be away from our screens. At some point on the next day, we'll probably come and put pictures of what we did. So that much screen time allowed, but we just shut down and take an extra day off every single month. And I'm happy to report that Dolphin Days, extra leaves, unlimited leaves, and working in a distributed fashion, async fashion has not at all impacted our productivity. If anything, in many ways, we are as energized as we were before. Yes, we would love to meet, love to sort of be physically together. I don't think I want to take away from that, but we cracked the code in some ways, and very proud of it.
No, very, very different between Devita and Suchita, two different philosophies that have come to the fore. But, one size doesn't fit all. Depending upon the organization and the nature of the beast itself, you have to tame it accordingly. So you got to deal with it accordingly. So, but Rishabh, for you also, with IIMUN and also, from business side of it, there have been a lot of learnings, isn't it? IIMUN was a very, very physical entity, and now you become totally virtual, but you guys have been doing such phenomenal work. 20,000 of you coming together to do findabed.in is not a small project, along with a lot of other stuff that work that you guys have been organizing and doing. So these are learnings that we'll have to take forward, because we will now, perhaps after the second wave, people will realize that we are entering a new normal. So things are going to be different than before, where you're going to understand and perhaps accept a hybrid system or a more evolved system of functioning, which perhaps will be more productive. Rishabh.
Well, very, very true. What you mentioned is that and specifically for the organization, we used to do offline conferences. So our entire thing was to go to schools and to go to cities and organize conferences for students and engage with them physically. So that entire ecosystem and just the whole education ecosystem has changed so much. The fact that now you can sit in a class, you can sit at home and you can take a lecture of somebody from some other part of the world who's a visiting scholar to your school or college. That entire ecosystem of education has changed. And for us at the organization also, I think there was a lot of learning, because earlier it was doing a conference in Tokyo, a conference in Uruguay, a conference in Mumbai. Now you have now you have students from Mumbai, Tokyo and Uruguay on the same platform, and with practically no cost. And earlier, for them to come into a Bombay would have been a difficult thing. And to spread that concept of Indianness across the world was a little more difficult. Now it's so easy, because you have students from Kenya connecting with students from Poland and learning from a Vedic scholar who's sitting in India. So the message that we want to spread across is become so much more easy. And I think that's one of the biggest takeaways, that in the pandemic, this adversity that was caused in the sense that people could not go physically and could not teach or organize events and conferences has been converted in a small way because of the 17, 18 and 19-year-olds who drive the organization, saying that, the opportunities come about where everyone can be connected and spread that message of India. But it brings to mind this one quote of Henry Ford. He said, coming together is the beginning, keeping together is progress, but working together is success. And when I see when I see young people across, and even in different fields, whether it be corporate India, whether it be Bollywood, whether it be Indian cinema as a whole, sport, etc., and everyone's coming together, Anand, along with Network 18, everyone's coming together and making a difference in their own way. And I think this is what is needed in order to counter the pandemic. And this is why I think we're on the right right path in order to make India what we envisage it to be.
If you do not want to sack a single person, you have to be able to churn out that kind of revenue to be able to support the kind of structure that you have. And you were right when you said that you don't want to sack anybody, but you want to make sure that everybody works for every single penny that they get. You may be a hard taskmaster, you may come across as a hard taskmaster, but you have a philosophy there saying that unless you are able to be productive, I am not going to be able to pay you. So going forward, what is the one thing that you're going to change compared to the way you have been so far, given this pandemic?
You're asking about me, my company, my employees, what?
Professionally, personally, however, the outlook, what you'd like to share with our viewers.
Okay, good question. I'm always the first one to be asked the question, so I will have to just say what's on top of my head here. I think I agree with you when it comes to what I said, that a hard taskmaster. It's about, as Machiavelli said, that the prince should choose to, if should be loved and he should be feared, but should he have to choose between the two, he should choose to be feared. But I do find that people in India, especially, they don't work for a company, they work for a boss. And they feel very secure mentally, emotionally when they're working with somebody very solid. Because I know in situations where my employees were in a hospital or they're unwell, the first call would come to me and say, "Boss, I'm really stressed. Can you make me feel better right now?" And this is not just with my employees, this is also with friends and people I know. So I think the biggest thing for me today, I have realized is how many people today are dependent on me for emotional, mental comfort rather than just only financial comfort. And for that, my self management is very important. So, actually, when the pandemic 2.0 started, I took off a Sunday and spent 6 hours of everything that I can do to take care of myself. Because, as they say, as you rightly said, you can't fill from an empty cup, you first have to fill yours. So I said, what is it that I can do to make sure that I'm on top of my game? Because if I am not feeling charged up, I don't expect my team to. And sometimes everything I will be able to do is help. So I would say that charity begins at home and begins with you first. So if people make a plan to say, you know what, whatever the situation, I'm not going to cry and scream and complain about it. I'm a boss, I'm a leader. I'm going to make sure that I'm someone that people can depend on. And I will do whatever the hell it takes to make my mental makeup for that. I think that's a commitment that we have to do. And everybody has a different formula. Some people want to meditate, some people want to dance, do whatever. Some people want to just hang with friends. Figure it out, but be a happy, solid, non-complaining, dependable boss as a human being, I think at all times, then I think you can do all the good work from there.
Let me just explore this with all of you and try and understand, the makeup from where you are approaching an issue. But for one thing, Ashish, I think all of us will agree is that all of us have looked at the problem as an opportunity. And perhaps that's where the outlook is the most important, in terms of that if you are going to be bogged down, then you are not going to be able to solve it. Either you can punch through it, or you jump over it, or you work around it, but somewhere you got to get to the other side.
Absolutely, it's very important to stay strong and stay fit, stay healthy, so that you are able to think clearly and identify the right opportunities. So if you look at us as an organization, I mean, through that approach, we have been able to identify a number of opportunities, launch new initiatives, new products, which have been accepted well in the market, and through which we've been able to kind of grow our business in these tough times. But I think when you look at it from a people perspective, I mean, one thing that all of us have kind of realized is that people are interconnected, and you need to help each other out. So that is, I think, a big learning that this pandemic has had for, I think, all of us. I see people around, and so much change that everybody is bringing in for betterment of humankind.
Rishabh, going forward, I think as young India, do you think this is going to be a realization? And many people, who are also part of IIMUN and who've also gone through, have realized that, you always have got to be prepared for the worst. You hope for the best and you prepare for the worst. You think this pandemic professionally will also teach a lot of companies to do that? A lot of individuals also to do that.
A lot of many individuals who've been a part of the organization, and we've been since 2011, the ones of the first few batches who are now working as professionals in different companies. And whenever we engage with them and we talk to them, that's the thing they say, that that we need to be prepared for the worst, because you don't know what is coming, and only if we are prepared for the worst, then will we be able to do our best. So that, I think, is in a nutshell what every person is mentally preparing themselves for.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm just going to end up with saying that you're always going to be faced with the problem. Something that's going to block your road. So some people like to punch through it, some people will jump through it, some people will work around it or just circle it around. But the idea is, the objective has always got to be to get to the other side, not stay put where you are or where you're stuck. And as long as that attitude is there, I think we'll continue to move forward and we'll continue to figure it out. So Devita, Ashish, Sucheta, and Rishabh, fantastic having this conversation. It's very refreshing. And we're going to end up in a very positive frame of mind as far as this conversation is concerned. Thank you very, very much. Wonderful speaking to all of you.